Guys, I really don't think you understand how excited I am. Now, I think I think of myself as a diligent student. You know, I cross my T's, I dot my I's. If I have homework, I study for it. I have a test tomorrow, I should be studying for that. College applications are due Wednesday. I finished up most of those. But guys, Paul Manafort was indicted today. Not just Paul Manafort. Not only was he charged, but so was Rick Gates. And also, there were developments about, or revelations about George Papadopoulos. So I'm going to be getting into all of that today. Now, the 12 charges I'm going to read out to you now. These are for Paul Manafort and Rick Gates. The first charge, and the most serious allegation, I would say, is conspiracy against the United States. Now, I printed out the entire actual charge page, which Paul Manafort handed before the courts on Friday. And it is something to read. If you guys have not done so yet, I would say at least take a quick glance and read through, because this is really history. This is the equivalent of just getting blasted. This is modern day Nixon, for lack of a better comparison. So paragraph 38, under statutory allegations, count 1, conspiracy against the United States. Now, a little bit in it says Paul Manafort and Richard Gates, together with others, and I'm going to get into that in a bit, knowingly and intentionally conspired to defraud the United States by impeding, impairing, obstructing, and defeating the lawful governmental functions of a government agency, namely the Department of Justice and the Department of the Treasury, and to commit offenses against the United States. Now, that's just fantastic. And reading that, I get a little bit excited already. But then you go on to count 2. Flip the page 24. Paul Manafort and Richard Gates, together with others, did knowingly and intentionally conspire to A. transport, transmit, and transfer monetary instruments and funds from places outside the United States to and through places in the United States, and from places in the United States to and through places outside the United States, with the intent to promote the carrying on of specified unlawful activity. B. Conduct financial transactions affecting interstate and foreign commerce, knowing that the property involved in the financial transactions would represent the proceeds of some form of unlawful activity. And so that's count 2. Count 3 through 6 is failure to file reports of FBAR, basically, through 2011 through 2014. Count 7 through 9, or failure to file reports of other FBARs for calendar years 2011 through 2013. I think those are for Richard Gates. So yeah, charges 3 through 6 are for Paul Manafort. Then 7 through 9 are for Richard Gates. Count 10, this is for both of them, unregistered agent of a foreign principal. So it says Paul Manafort and Richard Gates knowingly and willfully, without registering with the Attorney General as required by law, acted as agents of a foreign principal for Ukraine, Party of Regions, and Yanukovych. Then count 11 is false and misleading FARA statements. So that's basically saying they should have registered as foreign agents. And then the final charge is false statements. So as you guys know, if you're testifying before the FBI, whatever statements you make should be true. And that's what George Papadopoulos was charged with, and he admitted to. He's been working with the FBI for quite some time. It's very likely that he's the one that led to most of this information being revealed. So then, once again, just to completely summarize it, first count, conspiracy against the United States. Second one, conspiracy to launder money. Third one, unregistered agent of a foreign principal. And then other ones includes false and misleading FARA statements, false and misleading statements, period. And then 7 counts of failing to file reports of foreign bank and financial accounts. So the fact that this is for Paul Manafort is just amazing. And on the very first page, it says Manafort and Gates generated tens of millions of dollars in income as a result of their Ukraine work. In total, they laundered something to the tune of $75 million. That is a ridiculous amount of money. $75 million could be used and was in the United States to manipulate people within the federal government. And they note this, paragraph 3, it says, going along with this, says Manafort and Gates, among other things, directed a campaign to lobby United States officials on behalf of the government of Ukraine, the president of Ukraine, and Ukrainian political parties, and they were required to report to the United States their work and fees. They were hiding everything that they were doing in foreign bank accounts. Now, here's the real bombshell. Paragraph 6. In total, as I said, more than $75 million flowed through the offshore accounts. Manafort laundered more than $18 million, which was used by him to buy property, goods, and services in the United States. Income that he concealed from the United States Treasury, the Department of Justice, and others. Now, this is a common theme that we should really focus on. It keeps saying "and others." Like, it wasn't just Manafort. It says Paul Manafort, Richard Gates, along with others. And he said campaigns along with others. So what he's saying is, this is a larger reaching conspiracy. It might be hinting at Carter Page. It might be hinting at Roger Stone. It might be hinting at the Podesta brothers. So it's really far-reaching, and I think it gives him a lot of leeway. If he can continue to prosecute Paul Manafort, he has almost unlimited wiggle room. Another part under the scheme, which I love. There's a section literally called the scheme. It's like, oh, if you guys didn't know they were the bad guys, it's the scheme, fam. Paragraph 14, it says, quote, as part of the scheme, Manafort and Gates repeatedly provided false information to financial bookkeepers, tax accountants, and legal counsel, among others, which is once again kind of incriminating. Like, you're not even talking to your lawyer about this. That's kind of a serious allegations. Once again, I don't want to bog you guys down with numbers. I'm giving you the fast and dirty with the information itself. Like, it starts on page 7, and then it just keeps going and going and going. With specifically, it looks like Yancora Ventures Limited from Cyprus. So if a lot of you guys will hear this as the Cyprus conspiracy. It's popping up as that. There's also connections to the United Kingdom and Grenadines. And it just, okay, here's where I wanted to go. Paragraph 18 at the very end, it says the filings thus permits public awareness and evaluation of the activities of a lobbyist who acts as an agent of a foreign power or foreign political party in the United States. So basically, in summation, what Robert Mueller is saying is that I don't care how much dirty money you have, as long as we know you have dirty money. And the fact that you were working in a political party, the fact that you were working specifically with a presidential candidate, means that you had the potential possibility to corrupt him. And that's what this investigation is going to go after. And that's kind of where George Papadopoulos gets tied in, because he was a foreign policy advisor to Donald Trump. Trust me, I'll get into him a bit. We're just scratching the surface. Where is it? Paragraph 22, quote, among other things, they lobbied multiple members of Congress and their staffs about Ukraine sanctions, the validity of Ukraine elections, and the propriety of Yanukovych's imprisoning his presidential rival, Yulia Tymoshenko, who served as Ukraine president prior to Yanukovych. Oh my god. 22, that's another bomb. There's so many bombshells, dude. This is ridiculous. It just one after another after the other. And you have to remember, this has been going on for more than 2-3 years, I think, at this point. I think it's been going on since around 2014. These investigations, specifically on Manafort, then they expanded. If this was what was released 1 week before the presidential election, I think it might have been Hillary Clinton that would have won. But once again, that's another thing entirely. Now, the reason I brought up 22, even though it kind of seems random, like why I mentioned members of Congress, is because you have to remember, if Trump was corrupted and he's the presidential candidate, imagine how much money, once again, $75 million, could have been used to lobby other members of Congress without the government knowing. And specifically, I want to look at Reince Priebus, who's the chair of the Republican National Convention, and Paul Ryan. If you guys remember earlier this year, earlier this year, there's a recording released, and it was basically Paul Ryan saying, yeah, the Russians might have helped out, but we're going to keep this amongst ourselves. That's what he was going at. So, are other members of the Republican Party caught up in this? I don't know, guys, but I think it's very, very likely. In paragraph 25, it says, in November 2016 and February 2017, Manafort, Gates, and DMI caused false and misleading letters to be submitted to the Department of Justice, which mirrored the false cover story set out above. So yeah, don't lie to the Department of Justice. If you lie to the Department of Justice, they will lay down the hammer on you. They're going to destroy you, fam. Guys, I'm only like 2/3 of the way through. And then once again, the charges. Best part is on the last, where is it? So he registered with that. Bar statements. Sorry, I'm just flipping through. If you hear the page, I literally just took this out. Here we go. Another interesting part. Upon conviction of the offense charged in count 2, the defendants Paul Manafort and Richard Gates shall forfeit to the United States any property, real or personal, involved in any such offense, and any property traceable to such property. So basically, they're saying anything you used possibly for this, bank accounts, actual like real estate, houses, firms, anything, we're gonna seize those up and we are going to like destroy you. We are going to we're going to anything that was connected to these. We're going to own your entire life. Now I'm gonna be honest. I was kind of upset that Trump Tower wasn't on it. 37. You type in 377 Union Street. First thing that pops up is Paul Manafort, Trump campaign manager. Then there's 29 Howard Street. Most of these are in New York, by the way. Yeah, that. Oh shit, dude. All of these. Remember, all of these are now basically property of the United States federal government. So we have access to everything. Interesting enough, it says number E, Northwestern Mutual Universal Life Insurance Policy, because he had been using it for his own personal gain. So his own family, at one point, his daughter actually said in a text that, yeah, the money that we're getting is blood money. Remember all those people that are dying in Ukraine? Yeah, that's at the hands of our father. So she knows the sins of our father, and now she's going to have to bear the brunt of that. Now, there's 4 people I want to get into specifically. That believe it or not, that first, like, what was the spin? 11 minutes was just the intro paragraph, fam. We are actually now getting into the meat of the subject. Now, unless otherwise stated, all of this is from, I'm just going to be quoting Wikipedia just because that gives a very concise summary of it. All of this, you can trust me on this, all of this information, I made sure to cross-check with other sources. I looked at Politico, I looked at the Washington Post, I looked at the Wall Street Journal, I looked at CNN, and I looked at Fox News. So those were, I think I listed like 4 or 5 sources. As long as I could get 2 other sources to corroborate what I said, I just said that, okay, that's fine. And so then, since I was able to do that for all of the Wikipedia sources, I'm just going to be quoting Wikipedia. Now, for Rick Gates, I'll be using Politico and the New York Times, because I feel those better covered Rick Gates, because he didn't have a thorough Wikipedia page. Now, for Paul Manafort, on his Wikipedia said, this is something I want to specifically note. Manafort gained control. Quote: Manafort gained control of the daily operations of the campaign, as well as an expanded $20 million budget, hiring decisions, advertising, and media strategy. Now look, in the period from March to August, when you're in control of the campaign, what type of hiring decisions are you going to be making? Cabinet positions. You're going to be thinking about, oh, who do I want to be part of the cabinet? But okay, that could be put aside. I would say Betsy DeVos, but okay, whatever. People are going to be like, oh, conspiracy. It's Hillary Clinton all over. Okay, whatever. Let's get genuine here. I'm thinking Mike Pence. I think Mike Pence, he's already under fire for the Flynn investigation, very similar to this. Flynn was really like the cusp of this. He began this. Cusp, what in that? Anyway, that wasn't even the right word. But anyway, Flynn really began this, and I think since Mike Pence was the one that was supposed to oversee the appointment of Mike Flynn, he could very easily have been caught up in this. It goes on to say that in August of 2016, Manafort's connections to former Ukrainian president and his party of regions drew national attention in the U.S., where it was reported that Manafort may have illegally received $12.7 million in the off-the-books funds from the party of regions. We now know that it was far more than that, which is ridiculous. And in total, remember, he laundered $75 million. Now, Newt Gingrich, he had a great quote. Upon Manafort's resignation as campaign chairman, Newt Gingrich stated that nobody should underestimate how much Paul Manafort did to really help get this campaign to where it is right now. Members of Congress? Newt Gingrich? Not a member of Congress anymore, but still, come on, Newt. What are you doing, Gingrich? Come on now. This is really interesting, because, once again, Manafort helped start up a lobbying firm with Roger Stone, as you guys know. Or as you guys hopefully know. Now, on his Wikipedia, it just says, on October 28th, 2017, Stone became agitated following a news report by CNN that indictments would be announced within a few days. So then here's the thing. Roger Stone probably thought it was either him or Paul Manafort. So because most people at this time just shut the hell up. If they don't want to be blasted, and if they don't have any connection to it, they're just quiet. Like Mike Pence, I think he's innocent because he hasn't been talking that much. Donald Trump Jr. has been too hyperverbal, and he's like tweeted out everything trying to defend himself. The people here, the people that aren't talking are either in so deep that they can't escape, so they're just like not trying to draw any evidence themselves, or they have nothing to do with it. It's one of the extremes. There's no like, oh, kind of. There's no like locker room treason here. It's very black and white. So Roger Stone panicking shows that yeah, he was connected to it. Otherwise, you wouldn't want to draw attention to yourself right now. If their indictments are about to be handed out, why talk? Just be quiet, move to the side, and then let Robert Mueller destroy everyone else in the path. Don't get yourself involved. But he did get himself involved, and that's why Roger Stone might believe he's now connected. So there we go. Two people. Roger Stone can now be connected to Paul Manafort. But Roger Stone, he's just the side note. The other person that was really attacked was Rick Gates. Now, what I'm going to be quoting now is from Politico. I actually think this was from a couple months ago. I'm just going to double check my link. Come on, open the link. But this was an article called Trump Campaign Brings in Lobbyists for Key Posts. This was from April 20th, so 4/20 of 2016. So this is a while back. This is quite a ways back. But even here, it's noticing how odd some of the picks are. Once again, as I mentioned, Paul Manafort was responsible for hiring key staff within the Trump campaign. Now, quote, Politico says, quote, the pair joined another former Manafort lobbying partner named Rick Gates, who was identified as an agent of a Ukrainian oligarch in 2011 racketeering lawsuit that also named Manafort. Quote, so here it's saying, yeah, as early as 2011, yeah, we knew these guys had dirty money. And once again, when's the charges filed for the FBAR and the FARA? 2011, 2012, 2013, 2014, and 2014 is when they began the investigation. Goes on to say, quote, this is a campaign insider, quote, he was coordinating nuts and bolts kind of stuff with the staff on the ground, trying to make sure we had the right people in place and interviewing potential hires, quote. So everyone that was being drawn into the campaign had to go through this dirty filter of Rick Gates and Paul Manafort. These people are dirty. These people are connected to blood money. These people are connected to the Ukrainian government, which at this point, that part of the Ukrainian government was really just a proxy for Russia. This is becoming. I was joking earlier. I was like, oh yeah, locker room treason. But this is really serious. This is getting to the point that the charge of conspiracy against the United States cannot be taken lightly. And all this evidence only proves that point. Everything that they're doing is only making them more and more obviously guilty. And so when they're saying, oh yeah, we didn't launder money, yeah, but were you conspiring against the United States? Very possibly so. Very possibly so. And once again here, before I read this quote, I want to say, during the Nixon investigation, one of Nixon's main points initially was he didn't know what was going on. So people saying that they don't know what's going on, they feel is a good enough defense. So what does Rick Gates say? Quote, everything was done legally and with the approval of our lawyers. Nothing to my knowledge was ever done illegally. Quote, nothing to my knowledge. He's saying something illegal might have happened, and if it's discovered, I have already drawn my distance from that. But since I didn't know about it, you can't hold me guilty for that, right? You can't. On the contrary. And now finally we have George Papadopoulos, and this was a campaign supervisor, basically like a foreign policy advisor. And it says here, once again, this is from Wikipedia, but I cross-checked it. It says, quote, on October 5th, 2017, Papadopoulos pleaded guilty to making false statements to the FBI agents relating to contacts he had with agents of the Russian government while working for the Trump campaign. Papadopoulos has since been cooperating with special counsel Robert Mueller, according to court documents. The case was unsealed on October 30th, 2017, the day Paul Manafort was indicted. He brought in everyone. No one heard of Papadopoulos. No one cared about Papadopoulos. Who was this kid? And now he's like, oh, let me just bring down one of the most important people in this entire investigation. Casually, right? Papadopoulos becoming the big papa. Now, he had advised initially Ben Carson's campaign from like November to January of 2016. But, oddly enough, it says, quote, court documents show that an unnamed Trump campaign supervisor encouraged Papadopoulos to fly to meet with Russia, encouraged Papadopoulos to fly to Russia to meet with agents of the Russian Foreign Ministry after being told that Russia had, quote, dirt, quote, on Hillary Clinton it wished to share with the Trump campaign, quote. Do you remember when Trump or Donald Trump Jr. tweeted those emails? It was like, oh, if this is what you have, I love it. And that connected Roger Stone. This is basically the exact same thing that Papadopoulos is doing. He was used as a chess piece. He was used as a pawn by Rick Gates and by Paul Manafort, who were the Trump advisors, who were leading the Trump campaign, to try and draw connections with Russia. And he sent emails concerning Vladimir Putin to campaign officials. So basically, a couple days in, Rick Gates and Paul Manafort are already trying to distance themselves by using Papadopoulos as the pawn. So should Papadopoulos be convicted? I think so. He committed a crime. But his charges should definitely be less intense than those of Rick Gates and Paul Manafort. Now, I think it's going to be... I forget exactly. It's escaping me. If you guys have seen The Dark Knight, it's going to be that. But basically, where if you can convict all of the pawns, all of the lower members of a crime, and you can connect it to the leader, then you can convict the leader. I think that's basically what's happening with Paul Manafort and George Papadopoulos. He was the one that talked to the FBI because, as he said, he was working with Special Counsel Robert Mueller. Now, where does this leave all of us? This is the part where I just want to give my personal opinion on this. I feel like this is one of the greatest disgraces to the United States I've ever really seen. You guys have to realize this is like unprecedented. My father left left Pakistan to come to the United States because he thought this is where democracy reigns free. This is where everyone, no matter if you're the poorest of the poor or if you're Richard Nixon, the President of the United States, every single person is culpable to one person in the end. And that's not God. That's the justice system. That's Lady Liberty standing over the Hudson. Now, what this is showing is that Robert Mueller does indeed want to bring all of these people to bear. They want him to be held. Robert Mueller wants them to be held accountable for what they've done. And that's honorable. That's exactly what Robert Mueller needs to do. But like with Richard Nixon, we can never remember the massacres and the martyrs. Remember, the Saturday Night Massacre was when Richard Nixon realized that he was dead in the water. He wanted to stop any investigation, so he basically forced so many people to leave. He basically tried to get rid of the special counsel, and that's what Trump is likely going to do. I'm going to claim right now on October 30th. This is Monday night, 7:25 p.m. I'm going to call that within the next 3 weeks, Robert Mueller will either have extreme restrictions placed on him, like there's going to be clear obstruction of justice by not Rex Tillerson, but by Jeff Sessions, by Donald Trump. I think there's going to be extreme restrictions placed on him. There's definitely going to be a barrage by the Republican Party. And I'm just placing that right now. They're honorable people like Jeff Flake, but the reason that Jeff Flake is leaving, for those of you who forget, is because he knows he's dead. Like, Jeff Flake, at this point, he's just come to terms with the fact that, yeah, he's going to lose. So, am I hopeful? Not really. I'm going to be honest. I don't believe that any good is going to come of this. I think that this is just going to continue going on. I think that, in the end, nothing is going to come of the Manafort investigation. And that's not because I think there's no crime. I think the crime has made itself rather evident. But I think that the truths that we're supposed to hold self-evident, that all men are created equal, is not true in this situation. The people with the power and the people that are rich are going to be able to get out on top in the end. That's just a matter of fact. So, yes, be hopeful. Try and encourage Robert Mueller. Continue protesting. Continue making sure that whatever goes on is held the democratic standards, and that that there can be no obstruction of justice. But don't be naive. Don't think that the Republican Party, those members of Congress, are going to say, "Oh yeah, let's just turn on the president that we dirtied ourselves by electing." This is going to continue happening, and unless you realize that, you're naive. So yes, Paul Manafort guilty. Rick Gates, guilty. Roger Stone, guilty. George Papadopoulos, guilty. Donald Trump, guilty. Mike Pence, guilty. Mike Flynn, guilty. Reince Priebus, guilty. Everyone's guilty. But that does not mean that they're going to be brought to justice. We can only see what Robert Mueller does, and we can only pray to God that what he does is bring them before Lady Liberty, who, in times of great crisis like we are in right now, should be held to the standard of God. Thank you for listening. This has been Bilal Ahmed with Real Talk with Sean and Bilal. Thank you.